Carlos, let's start with Kim Reynolds. Her plan to endorse Ron DeSantis tomorrow. Does that change the dynamic in Iowa?
Well, it can, Alicia, in the sense that you can see the Republican establishment hoping that there's one candidate that has the opportunity to go one-on-one with Donald Trump when this primary season formally kicks off. Kim Reynolds thinks that's Ron DeSantis. His polling continues to be relatively strong compared to the other candidates, not Trump, of course. And then the other one that everyone's talking about is Nikki Haley, because she has surged in some of these early states in recent weeks. Again, this is all relatively speaking because Donald Trump is still the very strong front runner in this field. But establishment Republicans think that if one of these candidates has the opportunity to face him one-on-one, that the Republicans might be able to nominate someone other than Donald Trump.
To your point, Carlos, the word relatively is doing a lot of work in that analysis. Fernand, NBC News reporting that the Biden campaign is going to head to Miami on Wednesday during the GOP debate to counter the MAGA messaging with ads, with billboards. They have some events focused on Latino and Black communities. What would your counsel be to them a year out, Fernand?
Well, I think the most important thing that the campaign has to do, and I think they're doing it, Alicia, is to make clear to the American people that contrast between what going back to MAGA Trumpism represents. And that doesn't matter if it's Donald Trump as the nominee, Nikki Haley, or Ron DeSantis for that matter. This is the party that was comfortable with using violence to end American democracy, the party which has made excuses for the type of behavior that we've seen that has resulted in violence, that stopped the peaceful transfer of power. The party which has not created jobs, that has not strengthened the economy, that has not been able to get many of the big bills passed that the Democrats and President Biden has done. If they can set up that contrast, nail on that message, and hit it every day for the next 365, President Biden is going to win re-election comfortably and get the mandate that he and the Democrats, I think, deserve.
Carlos, let's take Fernand's point there about this being not just about Donald Trump, but about Trumpism, unless we ever lose sight of just how unusual this election is, because sometimes it's easy to say it's a year until the election. There's a debate. There is nothing ordinary about this election. The Washington Post is reporting today that Donald Trump and his allies are laying out a plan to use the federal government to punish critics and opponents if he were to win a second term. Trump has even talked about invoking the Insurrection Act to deploy the military to quell any demonstrations against him. So we'll get to the polling a year out. I know people like to talk about the polling, but Trump as a threat to democracy, I know that that may not conceptually always resonate with voters, but I wonder if the pivot for Republicans on that debate stage on Wednesday night is to say, the man who is not here, who wants to be president again, has no regard for the rule of law. Is anyone who's going to be on that stage willing to prosecute that case against him?
Alicia, I think this electability question is probably the most relevant in this context. And here is reality. Donald Trump and his movement were on the ballot in 2018, in 2020, and in 2022. And swing district and swing state voters all over the country in all three elections rejected Donald Trump and his movement. He is polling ahead of Joe Biden right now in some of these states. That is a reality. However, some of these candidates who actually want to defeat Donald Trump have to make the case to Republican voters that this is someone who's a three-time loser. He did squeak out a victory in 2016, but since then, he has been soundly defeated in every subsequent election. So that is a powerful argument. You've heard Nikki Haley try to make that argument. She is the candidate that polls the strongest against Joe Biden. So I think we can look to her to try to reemphasize that point in this important NBC News debate next week in Miami.